Good day, beautiful people of the earth. A couple of announcements before we get started. Dan Benham has just written a book that is offered on justifiedextortion.com. Dan Benham has been fighting the good fight for some time now, and he has a book with a list of all the references on where people can go to look up the information for themselves. It is an ebook, so you can just click on the link and it will take you directly to the information. No going out and researching or going down to the law library required. If you are interested in those kind of things, I would suggest that you get the book, and to my understanding, it is only $9.99. There will be a link in the description box below. Another announcement, this attorney I made a video about not returning property, ended up finally returning the property. So if you put enough pressure on these people, they will actually do the correct thing, even if the law office returned it in bad condition with all of the files mixed up and just generally kind of making it a pain and being childish. But because the attorney's office did that, and we recognize when people act in somewhat of an honorable fashion, I will be taking down this video. So to get to what I'm going to talk about today, I was kind of skimming through Hovind versus Raw debate. It's absolutely awful. I do not suggest that anybody watches it. We are going to watch one part with Aaron Raw because I have heard this argument from atheists several times. It seems to be kind of a big argument. Let's find out what it is.
Belief in a God that created the world, how could that possibly be bad?
I could write a book answering that question. So it might be better here to say, how could that be good? Why should anyone allow themselves to be absolutely convinced of something that is not evidently, probably, or even possibly true? Especially when faith is the most dishonest position it is possible to have, being exclusively auto-deceptive with no way to determine the real truth about anything, and the entire history of religion and even current events showing belief in God to be the catalyst of the most evil acts of heartless cruelty and thoughtless, negligent stupidity ever committed. And the reason you clasp your hands on your knees is because you're taking the position of a slave, not to a God, but to men pretending to speak for a God that they made up in order to control you, to get you to do their work by calling it the Lord's work. Which reminds me, how is construction coming on Dinosaur Adventureland?
Okay, so I find it interesting. He recognizes that blind faith in religion is just another way to control the masses. At the same time, not really recognizing that blind faith in government has the exact same ends. Now, another thing that he talks about is the fact that heartless acts of violence are done by people who are religious fanatics. Basically, that's just not true. So let's look into that. Here is kind of a misconception right along that same line of thought. Science flies you to the moon, religion flies you into buildings. The people who flew into buildings did not fly into buildings because of religion. They flew into buildings because of politics. Okay, so here's the 28 pages that was originally taken out of the 9/11 Commission report. You can see it was signed by the Senate Intelligence Committee that was put together for the 9/11 Commission report. Now, I don't know exactly when they declassified this. As you can see, they redact a lot of it. Now, some of this talks about how the FBI and CIA came to start working together on the attacks on 9/11. Okay, since I can't read their names really good, I'm gonna name this guy Bay, this guy Has, and this guy Me. According to FBI documents, Bay's pay increased during the time that Has and Me were in the United States, according to a recent analysis of ties between the terrorist attacks and elements of the Saudi government. Before Has and Me arrived in the United States, Bay generally received approximately $465 per month in allowance, according to the whatever document they won't show us. In March 2000, a month after Has and me arrived in San Diego, his allowance jumped to over $3,700 a month and stayed consistent until December 2000. When Has left for San Diego, Bay's allowance were then decreased to approximately $3,200 a month and stayed at a rate until Bay left the United States in August 2001, approximately 1 month before the September 11th attacks. Again, the FBI notes that Bay's wife, while living in San Diego, was receiving money from Prince Hafia, I don't know, the wife of Prince Bandar. Now the FBI has confirmed that Osama Bassem's wife received money directly from Prince Bandar's wife. So she was getting money directly. This seems to have a lot to do with money and not a lot to do with religion. Again, Hafia's account since January 1999 to send her $2,000 a month to Bassemian's wife, receiving it allegedly for nursing services, but the documents to evidence that don't exist. According to the FBI, in 1998, Bassnan cashed a check from Bannard in the amount of $15,000. Again, in January of 1998, another amount of $10,000. On October 9th, 2002, FBI Executive Assistant Director, believes we have money going from Barnard's wife, $2,000 a month, up to about $64,000. Phone numbers linking Abu, whatever his last name is, company in the United States, and a Saudi diplomat in Washington. According to the FBI, the phone number of an individual named, blanked out, of McLean, Virginia, was found within effects of Abu, whatever the last name is reportedly bodyguard at the Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C. The FBI now suspects that he may be we don't know. In a September 17, 2002 document, the FBI notes that the Bureau is opening an investigation on, we don't know, due to the size and value of his residence and his suspicious activity in approaching U.S. intelligence community personnel. It appears that whoever has been in contact with somebody, which is located at somewhere in McLean, Virginia. The FBI has identified this address as the address of Francis Bandard. According to the FBI, blah blah is officially a driver for the Saudi embassy. Okay, so basically what this document is about the Saudi government's role in the attacks on 9/11. If you're a conspiracy theorist, if you're not a conspiracy theorist, this is what the government will admit to, whether you believe in the conspiracy theories or not, how it was all there to make money because every good investigator follows the money, which is basically what the FBI is doing here. They're following the money of the people involved. It really doesn't matter, because this right here proves it was not done over religion, that Afghanistan really didn't have anything to do with it, and basically everything is a lie. The government lies to people. People lie to other people. Who would have thought that to be the case? Anyways, I will leave the link to this in the description below. So here is an article, Understanding the Rising Cult of the Suicide Bomber, A Brief History. of simple improvised explosive devices, suicide attacks and suicide bombings, the difference between the two. The first bombing was in Russia, 1881. They're killing a czar. They're killing a political figure. So my guess would be is that it's politically motivated. So this is about the waves of Japanese suicide bombers on the advancing Russian lines. So again, it was politically motivated for warfare, has nothing to do with God. Chinese dare to die, Chinese suicide bombers when they're at war with the Japanese. Everybody knows about the Japanese kamikaze pilots. Again, they are doing this for their state and not for God, which is personally why I believe statism is a much more dangerous religion than the belief in a Judeo-Christian God, and it has several different things about different suicide bombers. It gets to the shift in ideology, and when we get up here to Syria's role, it starts talking about using this, and they get people who basically are radical Islamic, but they're still doing it for political reasons. Even though they are radical Islam, they are still actually committing the act for political reasons, sometimes religious. One thing that's kind of scary about Islam is that in Islam, the religion is the politics are the religion. In a country that is 100% religiously Islam, they are typically Islam in their form of government as well. Going once again to kind of show that government is a religion. Further, when we look into what happened after 9/11 with us going into Iraq, here is Joseph C. Wilson when he was caught up in the CIA leak scandal. He went over to Africa to investigate yellow cake, and when the Bush administration used supposedly his report to justify the invasion of Iraq, he went to the New York Times. He went to the New York Times where a reporter wrote this article, "What I Did Not Find in Africa." He found no evidence of yellow cake being sold to Iraq, which of course the government used for their invasion in 2003. Just going to show that people lie. My thesis is that people lie, and this is why people go to war. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with men lying for their ambitions to exercise control and authority over lands and resources. The third commandment in the 10 Commandments is thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. When we go to the dictionary and look up what vain means, it means empty, worthless, having no substance, empty, unreal, light, inconsistent, worthless, empty, unsatisfying, false, deceitful, not genuine. And this is basically the same argument as people fight in God's name. People fight for their own reasons. It has not much to do with God. In my opinion, people fight because they wish to acquire more power, more resources, more finances, and it has nothing to do with God. So when people start wars using the name of God, it seems to be in vain because it's empty, it's unreal, it's false, it's deceitful, it's not genuine, and that's what vain means. So in the video Statute from Statute, Soulful Warfare, I actually go into some detail on how statute, the laws that Congress or the legislature passes comes from the word statue, like what people used to worship and idolize back in the ancient times, more or less how the government wishes to appear to be God to people. This is basically how I see it, and everybody has a belief about God, even if your belief is not believing. That's all I have for today. Hopefully, we as a people can come together. I am just conspiracy, and I wish to conspire with other good people of this planet to leave a better world for future generations than the world that we all grew up in. Thank you.